From what you've seen so far, and with all of your years of research as a guide, would you say that the recent economic downturn is a generational trend or just a short-term change in behavior?
I think it's going to be someplace in between. I think it's not going to be like the Depression, the Great Depression, where we've probably all known people that grew up during the Great Depression and remained frugal for the rest of their lives. I suspect it's going to be something in between, maybe a level of cautiousness or more thought than I think we got kind of careless with the world during the past few years, and caught up with us that there was more risk out there than we maybe anticipated.
And any change would absolutely impact the kinds of networks that you represent, which are home-oriented and a lot of do-it-yourself and family. Are you finding that you're benefiting from the current environment? Is there an advantage in some respects?
Well, it's kind of interesting because we've been tracking, for instance, the cost of housing and home sales, and as they declined very rapidly over the past year, viewership to the Home and Garden Network remained pretty much the same. So it's not quite as one for one as you might think. On the other hand, we know that people have turned to home and hearth and cooking as a result of the recession to some degree, and the viewership to the Food Network and interest in that type of programming has just gone through the roof. So I think there is a connection. It's not quite as direct as you might think, but so I think the outcome of what happens in the next year or two with people's attitudes and their kind of level of confidence, I think will have an effect as to how interested they are in sort of seeing aspirational things, or maybe wanting to see more practical things, more do-it-yourself. The do-it-yourself network is doing very well right now, I think, for the obvious reasons.
And I believe that Scripps was one of the networks that really took an early interest in the internet and on the websites. I would say that currently your websites must be among the top of all the cable networks. What have you learned over the past several years that you've been working on the internet from a research perspective about what works and what doesn't work?
Yeah, there's so many things we've learned. It is hard to narrow it down to just a few things, but I guess the obvious things are to keep it focused and purposeful and simple. We went through a fair amount of research trying to figure out the best way to incorporate video into our sites, and it wasn't all that intuitive. It took a little while to figure out how to make it not too intrusive, but attractive. I think at a sort of a more meta level that it's convergence. It just, the fact that we have websites that make a natural fit with what's on the television, and we can drive people from TV to the internet and to a certain extent back again, is something that a lot of networks don't have that benefit. There's so many practical, kind of step-by-step kind of details that people will go to the internet to find out.
And I'm sure it's been years in the making and in the understanding.
Yes, absolutely. It really has been years. We've seen it really evolve a lot. Of course, the internet has evolved, and what you can do with it has evolved so much.
Absolutely. So, Mike, is there anything I've left out? Is there anything that you would like to add?
I guess the only thing that we really didn't talk about is I'm thinking of my colleagues and myself, and I think it's been a little scary time for us. We've seen research departments cut back and merged and so forth. But my sense in looking around is that there still really is a demand for people with expertise, and it's harder and harder to find that specialized expertise of what we do. And I suspect as the companies become a little less fearful and become a little more confident that the recovery is here to stay, that a lot of those jobs are going to return. So I think that's worth keeping an eye on.
Well, I hope so. There are a lot of really great people out there, a lot of great talent.
There really is. There really is.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for your time. It was terrific and very interesting, as always.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thanks.